Hi, I'm Nancy Taylor from Completely Quilted in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and I was asked to sew and cut out and make hospital gowns for our local hospital out of plastic sheeting. And I was asked to make a video, an instructional video, for some of the volunteers who have volunteered to also sew and cut those out. And so this is going to be just the tips and tricks and how I learned to make these. It's under my, I'm under the impression that they'll be able to be sterilized and used for our nurses and medical staff because of the shortage of that kind of personal protective equipment. So what you will need is your Bernina sewing machine, and it will take a couple of tools and attachments on your machine to make this go fast and easy, and so that you have the best quality product that can be used over and over again. So you will need a Teflon coated presser foot to be able to sew this plastic sheeting. It's not necessarily thick, but you will need that for the feeding of that product. So you'll need a Teflon coated presser foot, and we have them here in the store, so you can purchase those. You also need a sharp needle, so just a fine sharp needle, like size 70 will be fine. And then I'm using the 100% polyester thread. It's the Isacord brand in the top and the bottom, and it is bleach resistant, fade resistant, so it's going to be the strongest and the best. And I'm just using white, although I don't think it really matters. So there are several size patterns that are floating around for volunteers. So you may have been given some plastic sheeting, you may have been given a pattern, and it may be different sizes. So there may be some just slight variations depending on size. I have been making the extra large, and then I also have the size regular. So that's what I'm going to be showing you as far as the cutting of that plastic sheeting to get the most out of the roll and the less waste, and also then I'll show you the construction of that as well. So stay tuned. So this is the plastic sheeting that you're going to start with that is being given to those who are making the gowns. And you will also hopefully get a pattern. So you may just be cutting, and so you can just start with this part of the video and then disregard the sewing part. So the patterns are made out of newsprint, and they will tell you how many you need and if it's cut on fold. So that will be important for you to know how to cut these on the fold, and then the pieces that aren't. So you've got a roll of plastic sheeting, and this I have here was a pattern that was for the extra large, and I just, oops, sometimes they tear and you just tape them back together real good. So that's the extra large, and I've been asked to stop the extra larges and start on regulars. So the roll comes and it's all folded up, and so I always start by cutting the front. So the front is going to be the largest piece. This front piece here, you can see it says front. R, I believe, means that that's the right side, and then here is the fold. Okay, so what I do is I start by unrolling the roll, and I just lay the pattern down on the roll, and I just give myself, you know, about like a ½ inch on the bottom and a ½ inch on the top, or a whole inch, and I just cut that that width. That's how much I'll need, and I can get several of these fronts out of that section. Okay, so this is going to be my section that I can refold now to cut the front. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. I'm not going to use the manufacturer folds that they have. I'm going to create a new fold. Okay, and I'm just going to bring this over because you can get several out of this piece. I'm just going to bring this over. Keep this kind of handy so I can bring it. And hopefully you can see that now I have just enough and a new fold that I've made to cut out this front. Okay, and it's not going to be, it doesn't have to win a contest, but it does need to be sewn together well. So the better you cut it out, the easier it will be for whoever's sewing it to get that sewn together. Now if you have pattern weights, put some weights on it. You're not going to pin this because you don't want extra holes in it. So now I'm going to just start cutting out. Not going to cut through the paper. I'm just going to stay right on the outside edge of the paper. And this is not like a gorgeous form-fitting gown that's going to be worn in prom or anything. So this is going to just, it won't feel real great. It's not going to be fitted, but it will be protect our nurses and medical staff that need this kind of protection. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, and then I'll have my front. Alright, so I've got my front cut out on my fold, and I'll just open up so you can see. There's the front. Okay. So now that I've cut this one out, then I can come back here, and I still have this big piece that I'm just going to come fold over again, create my new fold, and keep cutting that out, okay? So it looks like I might be able to get maybe even one more front for this regular, maybe. I don't have all of the configurations out for this regular size yet, but I know on the extra large, out of this one width, you can get 2 fronts for an extra large, and then some of the other pieces. So, you also are going to have, these are pretty easy to cut. So this is the arm. So you're going to cut 2. These are not cut in a fold. So 2 per garment, per gown. So you do need to cut the little hole also. So you'll cut 2 of those. Then you've got this tie. Okay, and this is, this piece will make 2 ties. So you'll cut one of this out, and then you'll just cut it straight down to create 2 ties out of this pattern piece. And then you have one more pattern piece, and that is this one. And this is the most curious for me, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. So this is the back and the back of the arm. So this is kind of like the neck hole and the back of the arm, and it gets cut on the fold here. So you're going to take your plastic sheeting, and this time you're going to go ahead and lay this out, and you're going to cut this skinny piece. I know it seems like kind of weird, but you're going to cut a skinny piece. Alright. It's about 14 inches on the extra large. This is the first time I'm cutting a regular, so I'm not exactly sure how many inches this is, but you just lay your pattern piece down and cut enough to get that out. Now, you're also going to refold this one. So, we're going to refold this. And I might only be able to get one out of this unit. So refold this so that I can place this part on the fold. Yep, and I'm going to try to make sure that I can get, maybe I can get 2 out of this one. The extra large I could not. No, it looks like I'm only going to be able to get 1 out of this. Okay. So there's my fold. Same thing. I'm going to cut out the outside of this, and then I'll be able to open that, but it'll be like one long, skinny, weird looking piece. And then I'll show you how those pieces get put together. Okay, so I've got my back arm piece, and when I open this up, see, look, it looks like just a long wing thing. Okay, so wait, that's my back, and you're gonna have some scraps, and you might be able to get your tie out of this. So here's my tie piece, and it looks like, yeah, I can get my tie maybe out of this, but there's other scraps. You are going to need some strips, reinforcement strips. They're about an 1.5 inches long, and those are going to be reinforcing the armpits and the neck seams, because those are going to have the most stress on them. So you'll just need a couple of these strips hanging out near your sewing machine for that. And so then I'm just going to go ahead and cut the ties out of this. So just kind of square that off. Make yourself a nice rectangle. Okay, so that's my tie piece. Now, remember that one pattern piece makes 2 ties, so you just cut it in half. And if you have really nice sharp shears, you don't even have to like open your scissor open. You just slice right through it. Okay, so those are my 2 ties, and I've got my little reinforcements here. And I've got, oh, I need to cut my arm pieces, and that's where this extra might come in handy on the regular size, because then I can fold that over and I can cut these 2 arm pieces out of this piece. So that worked out perfectly. So now I'm just, there's my little finger hole, and here's my 2 arm pieces. I got my arm. Now I'm ready to start stitching this together. I've got all my pieces for this regular size. So, I'm going to start with my front, and I'm going to sew my arms to it. So, you're going to have your arm piece that's going to get sewn right sides together onto this guy. And there's a definite right and wrong way to sew this together. You want to just make sure that that flat end looks good, and then that angle part, you know, it's like angled towards the armpit area. So you're going to want to look at that angle and make sure that that's going to be your pit, and then this top shoulder here is straight. So I kind of have to lay it out and then fold it back on itself to make sure I've got that right. So this is going to sew here, and then I've got this side the same way, that flat shoulder on the top, and then the angle will be down in that armpit. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to show you how this is going to get sewn, and then it will be top stitched. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clip this together. You won't be able to use pins, but you can use these Wonder Clips. That'll keep that from shifting around on you while you sew. So I'm going to be using, this is my, you can use any Teflon coated foot. I like this one, it's the straight stitch one, but there's lots of them out there. So I'm sewing with about a 3/8 of an inch stitch, so that first little line's 1/4 of an inch, so it's just a little seam, a 3/8 of an inch seam. And I'm going to start sewing. I've also suggest that you increase your stitch length to about 3.4, like, let's see, increase it to like 3.8. And you always want to do your back stitching. So I'm going to back stitch here at the beginning of my seam, 3/8 of an inch. And you see, it just sews really fine. There's nothing difficult about it. It just glides right over. And you want to do a back stitch at the end also. So if it doesn't line up perfectly, you can just whack it off. Alright, so I've sewn that seam. Now I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to top stitch it. So I kind of want the raw edge underneath facing the opening of the arm, the hand side. And I'm just going to kind of just sort of eyeball it. Just want that to stay nice and flat, and so I'm top stitching this seam. And so all the way down, and always do my back stitch. Now you can see here I've got like a little flap, like a little excess, so it's not a big deal. I'm just gonna take and just even that up. You know, it's just plastic sheeting, so sometimes it's difficult to make sure that that is, you know, not shifting on you when you cut or even when you sew. So you can just take those and make sure you trim all your threads, We don't want to leave any threads on here. You want it to be nice and flat and top stitched and have that increased stitch length. That's super important because you don't want to do a lot of perforation. I mean, that's a very, very strong seam. Okay, so I'm going to now sew the other arm, or my other arm, and I'm just going to go ahead and clip that as well. And the clips just help me get that underneath there and even that up. Because it's so slippery, you know, it slides around a little bit. 3/8 of an inch. Always do your back stitching. Okay, so now this is my front with my arms sewn on, and they've been top stitched, so that's my front. And now I'm going to put my back on, so let me show you. So now I have this long back piece, and it's going to get sewn onto the long front. So I'm going to start up here where I've got my neck hole, and this is going to be like my top shoulder seam. So I've got my top shoulder seam, so that's right sides together, and I'm going to sew this long seam here, flipping that, and then I'm going to come down on the bottom, and I've got this the bottom of the arm. So you'll start here in your armpit area, and so the length of the bottom of the arm. Okay, and that's what's going to give you your arm tube. And then you'll also have up here, same thing on this other side. You'll start at the neck opening, and you know, if it's not perfectly even up here, that's okay. You can just, you know, trim that off. You know, make sure that you're not trimming off the back stitching that you're doing. And then you're also going to have the armpit area on the bottom. You'll do your back stitch here at the armpit and then the bottom of the arm. And I have a finished one here. What do I have? Oh, here it is. So this is the extra large. You can see that we've got the gown. So I will go ahead and sew that, and then I'll show you how the reinforcements are done. Here I am, starting up here at my neck seam. I'm going to do my back stitch. I'm just going to sew my 3/8 of an inch, my beginning, and I'm going to do my back stitch again. So that was the top of the shoulder, and now I'm just going to shift it around. I like to start in the armpit and then work my way out to the outside. So start in the armpit area and then work my way. This is where you need to have a clip because it's hard to position it and then get it underneath your machine. Okay. Get it under there. Make sure you do your back stitching always. Alright, so now I'm ready to sew on my tie. So I have just the corner of where kind of it looks like an apron, so where the corner is. And then you're just going to fold that kind of an accordion fold. So about a 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch. So you're just kind of making a little flap that can just then rest right over that. So from the back side, there's about a 1/2 inch here and then a 1/2 inch in the front. And then I'm just going to place all of that underneath my presser foot, and I'm going to sew, do my back stitch, and then sew down to the end and do my back stitch again. And then I'm going to just do one more, a little bit closer now, so about a little bit closer, and just do one more right there to reinforce that. And now my tie's sewn on, and just make sure that, so this is sewing the reinforcement to the neck, guys. So here we go, I've got that neck seam, and this will be the same way that you will do it on the armpit seam. Have your extra tab fabric, and that's just going to get wrapped a 1/2 inch behind, and then fold it back to the front. And then I'm going to clip that in place so that it will stay there so I can get that underneath my machine. Okay, and then I'm going to finagle this underneath here. There it is. then I'm going to go ahead and stitch right over that seam. Make sure that I'm catching the back side that I had folded behind, and then it's sewing right over that shoulder seam, and do back stitch at the beginning and the end, and then cut. So I'm going to cut all of my threads and everything. And you can see here that you've got this excess flap, and you're just going to cut that off. That can be used for the next one. And then also just make sure you trim all of your thread tails. And that's the reinforcement that'll be done on both your pieces. Okay, so this is my sewn gown, and now I need to turn it. So it's very important that you grasp that extra reinforcement that you did in the armpit, and then reach in here to the hand, and then kind of pull through gently so that you don't want to tear anything. I mean, it's strong, but you could still, you know. And so there is one arm turned. Make sure that you grasp that reinforced armpit and then pull all of that through. So if you've done it right, you've got your front will have the finger hole, so that's your front with the seam that's top stitched both sides, and then you've got your ties. So that's right. There it is. So if you're part of the team that's been asked to do this by the Alliance Health Ponca City, then you can use this video as a resource along with your Bernina machine and your Teflon coated presser foot. And if you're cutting, then thank you so much for your help, and happy sewing!